The NFC South is going to be a complete mess this year. It may be a mess for years to come. Last year, this was the worst division in football with a record of 29-39. The division in the NFL that had the absolute worst record, and it's going to get worse from here. I mean, this year's division is going to be pretty bad. I mean, last year's winner, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I mean, they have some huge changes coming. As we all should know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year had the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, and now he has retired this offseason. And now their situation at quarterback is looking pretty bad. They end up signing Baker Mayfield in the offseason, which Baker Mayfield's season last year was an absolute roller coaster. Of course, we should know. He started with Carolina last year, scoring 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 1,300 yards. He ends up getting benched because his play, it was pretty bad last year when he was with Carolina. And then he goes to the Rams, and then a few days later, he's leading a comeback touchdown drive to beat the Raiders on Thursday Night Football. And actually, when Mayfield was with the Rams, he didn't look too terrible. I mean, he didn't look like that prime rookie of the year Baker Mayfield, but he wasn't terrible. 4 TDs, 2 interceptions, 850 yards. It's not anything too bad. Also, they have Kyle Trask on the roster, but I don't see him starting. He's barely played any snaps in the NFL, and I kind of think to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's just an afterthought at this point. I mean, this team's playmakers on offense, I mean, they kind of have some. I mean, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are still there, but they're not getting any younger at this point. Cameron Brate was kind of cool to watch last year with Brady, but Baker Mayfield's now there. And Rashard White, after Fournette's been released, White actually kind of looked decent next year. I'm expecting him to probably be that lead back this year and probably do most of the offensive work. Also, that defense, that's not getting any younger either. That defense is starting to have some holes now. Shaquille Barrett last year tore his Achilles. He might not be back for a while. Devin White's still there. Levante David this offseason requested a trade. I mean, they got Jamel Dean, Antoine Winfield Jr., but there's nothing really that's poking my eyes out at this defense currently. Vita Vea, I mean, it's getting older. There's not really that many pieces, and I don't know if this defense is really going to be that ferocious defense that it was those couple years ago. Personally, if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we are tanking for Caleb Williams this year. That is our number one goal, to get that number one draft pick and select Caleb Williams, our quarterback of the future. The team that finished second in the South, the Carolina Panthers, are also going to have some huge changes to come. First off, they have a new head coach in Frank Wright, which in my opinion was a great hire last year. He was the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts before getting fired because that whole team was in shambles and no one knew what was going on. Also, their quarterback last year, Sam Darnold, he honestly kind of played decent, even though they had a little bit of a quarterback carousel last year. They went from Baker to somebody else to Darnold. It was just a complete carousel. But they end up trading up with the Chicago Bears for the number one overall pick and select Bryce Young, in my opinion, my favorite quarterback in the draft and the best quarterback in the draft, to be their quarterback of the future. In my opinion, I think Bryce Young is going to succeed in the NFL. In my opinion, I actually really like Bryce Young as a quarterback. I know he's a little bit shorter than your average quarterback, but I feel like that's not going to hold him back, and he's still going to be a great quarterback. I think that actually they're not going to let Bryce start right out the gates, feed him to the dogs right away. They're going to let Dalton start for a few weeks, and then they're going to let Bryce start. And I think for Bryce, things are going to go well. I mean, that receiver trio is kind of weird, I would say. They drafted Mingo. They signed Adam Thielen. Like I said, DJ Moore earlier for the number one overall pick got traded. So they got some things to do. They got some things to think about. They also signed DJ Chark, Hayden Hurst to play tight end, and they also have Terrence Marshall Jr. that they had last year. They also have Miles Sanders at running back last year. He was amazing with that Philadelphia Eagles offense, so we can see what he does here in Carolina. But I have high hopes for the Panthers and Bryce Young. I think they got a pretty nice future. That defense is also, it's young and talented. There's some pieces such as J.C. Horn, one of my personal favorite corners in the NFL. They also have Brian Burns and Von Bell. Honestly, I kind of like this Panthers team. I kind of like what they're doing, and we're going to see how this future goes. But honestly, I think that they're going to do well in the future. I don't understand why the New Orleans Saints just give it up and rebuild, because this is what they need to do. They should have did this, and they were refusing to. I don't honestly understand it, because this team is honestly such an odd team in the NFL. First off, they went through a quarterback carousel last year. They had Jameis, and then Dalton ended up starting for most of the year. They ended up going 7-10, just an odd year. So guess what they do this year? They go ahead and sign Derek Carr to be their quarterback. And Derek Carr, he wasn't really the greatest quarterback in the world last year. He had a lot of lows. He had a little highs, but a lot of lows last year, which is kind of odd to my opinion to sign Derek Carr. Also, the running back, remember good old Alvin Kamara? Yeah, in his prime, he used to be so good. Well, now he actually might end up getting suspended because he beat someone up during the Pro Bowl a couple years back. So he might end up getting suspended. But there isn't really a lot of light spots on this offense besides a couple, such as Chris Olave. He had actually a wonderful rookie season going for 1,000 yards last year. Olave, he's a great wide receiver. I also love Rashard Sheed as a wide receiver too. I've been a Rashard Sheed fan ever since he broke on that Arizona game last year for that wide open touchdown. That was just all around amazingness. This Saints team, honestly, if they don't go well with Carr this year, they just need to tank because they're in shambles. I know they restructured Michael Thomas's contract. They need to do that because Michael Thomas, man, he ain't been the same in forever. That defense too, it's still, I guess, solid, but it's gonna start falling off soon. I got a feeling Cameron Jordan, he's getting up there in age. That defense is slowly but surely gonna start falling off and getting older, and people are not gonna want to be in New Orleans anymore. So this Saints team is a bit of a they're in an odd spot. Honestly, the best I can see them doing is maybe 500 or a 8-9 season, because this division is going to be trash. So I could see them maybe have the potential of making the playoffs, but in my opinion, this New Orleans Saints team, I just don't see anything too bright about them. There's nothing special that makes me pop my eyes out besides Chris Olave and Rashard Sheed on that offense. The Atlanta Falcons last year placed 4th in the NFC South, and honestly, I can kind of see them winning the division this year. In my opinion, if Desmond Ridder plays well, they can definitely win the division. Last year, Ridder actually did play well. He had no turnovers in those last few games that he started, which was very surprising to me for being a rookie quarterback. He actually played decent. And of course, with their first draft pick this year, they ended up taking that, and they also run the ball the most last year in the NFL. So I can also clearly see Bijan being a huge factor there. They also have Drake London last year, who they drafted, a great wide receiver, which I think now with Ridder as their quarterback instead of Marcus Mariota, I can see him producing. Also, same thing with Kyle Pitts, because last year he was non-existent, but we got Ridder at quarterback instead of Mariota now, which I can see there would be a huge difference there. That defense, though, it's still kind of questionable. They still have good old AJ Terrell there still. They end up signing Jesse Bates this offseason, which I kind of think he kind of scammed them out a lot of money, because I'm going to be honest, I don't think Jesse Bates was worth all that money. Also, they traded for Jeff Okudah. In my opinion, he revived his career last season. So it's going to be kind of interesting. They got some key pieces on that secondary, but that defensive line and that defense is still a little questionable in my opinion. But honestly, because of this Atlanta's team's offense, I can see them winning just because of the offense, just because of how good this offense is. This is the only reason why I could see them winning. In theory, how good this offense should be. Honestly, I can see the Atlanta Falcons winning the division this year. My picks for this division would either be the Falcons or the Carolina Panthers. So the only two teams I can really see winning the division. Tampa and the Saints, I really can't see really doing anything this year. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did enjoy the video, please drop a subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. Really would appreciate it. I think I'm going to start moving to more daily videos now instead of one video once a week. Watch these 2 videos that I made right here, and there should be another video out soon. See y'all in the next one. Have a nice day.